Fight for impeachment, Trump attacked, Nancy's nervous. As president and Democrats continue positional battles. The impeachment epic continues to gain momentum in the United States. Last week, the first hearing on the removal of the US president from power took place. Kurt Walker, whom experts had previously called the first swallow among those who could abandon the sinking Trump administration and go over to the side of his accusers, spoke to congressmen. At the same time, the president continues to counterattack the Democrats who are in charge of the investigation. This time, he demanded an impeachment for Speaker of the House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi. The investigation into the impeachment of Trump is being promoted more and more actively. At the end of last week, Congress began to hold hearings on the pressure of Donald Trump on Ukraine in order to influence the 2020 US elections. As the first witness, the ex-US Special Representative for Ukraine Kurt Walker was called, who tried so hard to prove that he did not participate in activities against Biden, that it seemed that he was doing exactly the opposite things. Kurt Walker was called for interrogation, which lasted as long as 9 hours. In this context, the word interrogation sounds very appropriate. Unlike the traditional hearings that Congress sometimes holds, this interview took place at one of the points of collection and processing of classified information in conditions of increased secrecy. Walker's statements indicate that he was, to put it mildly, not quite close to the position of his president. De facto, he rudely sabotaged the work that the Trump administration carried out in the Ukrainian direction. So, Walker hinted to Zelensky that Trump's associate Giuliani does not represent the US government and his demands can be ignored. During the conversation, Walker admitted that he has known Joe Biden for 24 years and does not believe that he was engaged in illegal activities in Ukraine. At the same time, the Prosecutor General of Ukraine Yuri Lutsenko was accused by Volker of bias and self-interest, and generally recognized as not trustworthy. This is the wonderful prosecutor whom Donald Trump very much praised in a conversation with Vladimir Zelensky. For the rest, the former US Special Representative for Ukraine denied everything, even when it was frankly absurd. He said that he did not know about attempts to pressure Biden, although he himself urged Ukraine not to initiate an investigation that could affect the US election. However, while Walker is the only representative of the presidential administration who has sided with the prosecution and is ready to assist the investigation in every way, as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo takes a completely different position. He, too, was summoned by Congress for a hearing, but refused to answer before the House of Representatives until she voted to begin the impeachment proceedings. Until recently, this was how the investigation against the president should have begun, but more recently, Democrats changed the rules. Now the majority is enough only in specific committees. The general vote of the Democratic Party is extremely unprofitable. A number of its representatives from the moderate districts may be under attack if they support the investigation against Trump. Thus, Congress is unlikely to hold an official vote, and under such conditions Mike Pompeo has already expressed his opinion that he considers this activity an act of intimidation of employees of the State Department. The head of the department said that none of his subordinates would appear in Congress on the agenda, and he was not going to answer questions from lawmakers. At the same time, Donald Trump continued to attack those politicians who led the investigation against him. This time, Congressional Speaker Nancy Pelosi hit the president's hot Twitter account. Nancy Pelosi knew how much dodgy Adam Schiff lied and cheated in the face of Congress and the American people, both in the form of a fraudulent speech delivered by a ruthless con man and in illegal meetings with a very partisan whistleblower and lawyer. This makes Nancy nervous just as guilty as Adam Schiff is guilty of serious crimes and even treason. This means that they with all those who maliciously conspired with them should be sent to impeachment, the US president wrote. Apparently, he is also not going to slow down and will continue to attack the Democrats further. To tell when this high-profile story with the investigation ends and who wins in it is very difficult. So far these are just positional battles in which both sides are trying to gain an advantage. Most likely, the denouement awaits us no earlier than by the new year, if this investigation does not drag on at all until spring.